It's often this stuff that seems purely administrative in international relations, like visa rules, that can suddenly flare up.
Absolutely, things you might not think twice about.
Exactly. Who needs a visa? Who doesn't?
Hmm.
It sounds like paperwork, but wow, it can become a real diplomatic issue.
A major flashpoint sometimes.
Which brings us to what we're digging into today. We've got this pretty direct press release from the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs,
Hmm.
and it's aimed squarely at recent, let's say, communications from France about their visa policies. The core message, it's a very strong statement about Algeria's sovereignty.
Their right to decide for themselves.
Precisely, their right to make their own calls on these things. So we have the statement here, and our mission really is to unpack it. What are the key points Algeria is making? What's behind this forceful reaction?
And why does a spat over diplomatic passports matter in the bigger picture of their relationship and how international agreements work?
Yeah, because this isn't just procedural grumbling. It says a lot.
It really does. I mean, this press release highlights just how vital those established diplomatic norms are and sticking to agreements. It's fundamental for stable relations.
It's about respect, isn't it?
Exactly. Mutual respect. And this Algerian response, well, it clearly signals they feel that respect has been missing from the French side on this issue.
Okay, so the first thing that jumps out is Algeria expressing, well, almost disbelief, maybe annoyance, at how France apparently communicated.
Right. They talk about this curious and dubious practice.
Which is France allegedly leaking info about visa changes, specifically for diplomatic and service passports to certain media outlets first, not through official channels.
Yeah, it's like saying, hang on, are we diplomats finding out about policy changes affecting us from the news? That's not how it's supposed to work.
It feels disrespectful.
Well, from a diplomatic standpoint, it definitely sidesteps protocol. Official state-to-state business usually goes through very defined channels, letters, diplomatic notes.
To avoid confusion.
That, and it's a basic sign of respect for the other state's government. Going through the media first, well, it raises questions about how seriously the established process is being taken.
And Algeria connects this directly to a specific agreement, right? The 2013 one.
Yes, the Algerian-French agreement covering visa exemptions for these exact types of passports, diplomatic and service.
Their argument is that France didn't formally notify them of changes through diplomatic channels, which they say flat out violates Article 8 of that deal.
Which presumably outlines how such notifications should happen.
It sounds like it. So their point is, we had a deal, it spelled out the process, and you didn't follow it.
And that really hits at the core of international agreements. They set the rules of engagement. If one side feels the other isn't following those rules, especially on procedure,
It undermines the whole thing.
exactly, it calls into question the value placed on the agreement itself. From Algeria's perspective, if France isn't following the notification rules, what does that say about their commitment to the rest of it?
And it gets more complicated. Algeria also says their foreign ministry tried multiple times to get answers from the French chargé d'affaires in Algiers.
The main diplomatic contact point.
Right. And apparently he said he hadn't received any instructions from Paris and couldn't answer their formal requests.
That suggests a breakdown in communication, or at least a significant delay.
Could it just be, bureaucracy, things moving slowly in the French system?
Well, maybe. Internal processes can be slow, but the statement emphasizes repeated attempts and getting no information.
So it might look deliberate.
It could be interpreted that way, yes. Diplomatically, a lack of response, especially after formal requests, can sometimes be seen as not taking the concern seriously, or perhaps avoiding direct engagement on the issue.
And Algeria is very, very clear about who they think started this problem.
Oh, yes. They use strong language. They solemnly recall that France bears full and entire responsibility for the initial breaches of the 2013 agreement.
And they've said this before in another official statement, so this isn't new ground for them.
Right, that's important. It suggests this isn't an isolated incident in their view, but maybe part of a pattern.
A buildup of frustration, perhaps.
It certainly implies that previous attempts to resolve this, maybe more quietly, didn't work. And now they're going public and being very firm.
And following directly from that, they completely reject any idea that Algeria violated the agreement first.
They call the French claim fundamentally an inaccuracy and a falsehood.
That's about as direct as diplomatic language gets, isn't it?
It really is. It's a flat denial. You have two completely opposing stories here about who broke the agreement first. That highlights, well, a significant level of disagreement and maybe mistrust.
Okay, now this next part is really interesting. Algeria provides some historical background.
Yeah, this context is fascinating.
They stress that Algeria was never the one pushing for these visa exemptions for diplomats. Never the initiator.
Quite the opposite, it seems.
Right. When France first suggested it back in 1986, when they brought in general visa rules, Algeria said no immediately.
Wow.
And then France apparently tried again 3 more times in the 90s.
And Algeria kept refusing.
Consistently said no.
Yeah.
That's quite a stance over, what, a decade or more? Why do you think they were so resistant back then?
That's a great question. It could be several things. Maybe general security concerns, a desire to maintain tight control over borders, or possibly a strong assertion of sovereignty, wanting to treat everyone entering the country under the same basic rules, even diplomats, perhaps.
It definitely reframes the current situation, doesn't it?
It really does, especially considering what happened next.
Because Algeria eventually did agree in 2007, but only after France insisted again.
Right. And the 2013 agreement, the one we're talking about now, which expanded the exemption to service passports, too.
Also initiated by France, according to Algeria.
Yes. So this whole historical narrative seems designed to say, look, this arrangement was primarily your idea, France. We weren't eager. You persuaded us.
It puts Algeria's current position in a very different light.
Absolutely. It suggests that maybe they don't feel particularly wedded to this agreement, given its origins from their perspective. They might feel, we went along with it, but if you're changing the terms now,
then maybe we're not that bothered if it falls apart.
right.
Which leads into their take on France's current motives.
Exactly. They state their perception is that the French government is trying to freeze or suspend the 2013 agreement sort of quietly.
De facto suspension.
Right. Without formally taking responsibility or using the procedures in the agreement for suspension or termination.
So avoiding the official steps.
That seems to be Algeria's reading, that France wants out or wants changes but doesn't want to be seen as the one officially pulling the plug according to the rules.
And that perception of, let's say, sidestepping responsibility likely adds to the frustration.
Oh, certainly. It could be seen as acting in bad faith, undermining the trust needed for these kinds of bilateral deals. You wonder, could there be domestic reasons in France for wanting these changes but not wanting to announce them formally?
That's always a possibility in international relations, isn't it?
Yeah.
Domestic politics playing a role.
Often does.
So, okay, wrapping this all together, where does Algeria stand now?
Well, they're pretty blunt about it.
They say they have no particular interest nor any significant attachment to the 2013 agreement.
Basically signaling we can take it or leave it, especially now.
And they acknowledge what they see as France already suspending it in practice without following the rules. And their response. They say they'll draw the necessary conclusions and apply strict reciprocity.
That's the key phrase, reciprocity.
Meaning what exactly in this context? Tit for tat.
Pretty much. It strongly signals they're prepared to impose the exact same visa requirements or difficulties on French diplomatic and service passport holders that they believe France is imposing on theirs.
So mirroring the action.
Yes. It's a standard, if often escalatory tool in diplomacy. If you do X to us, we'll do X to you. It can create practical problems for travel, for diplomacy itself.
Right. It makes actual diplomatic work harder.
It can, unfortunately. It risks a cycle of reactions.
So pulling it all together, this Algerian press release is fundamentally a strong defense of their sovereignty.
Absolutely. The right to make their own decisions.
Triggered by what they see as France breaking protocol, ignoring an agreement, and trying to duck responsibility.
And the history they provide is crucial context. It paints a picture of France being the main driver for these exemptions for years.
Which makes Algeria's current, almost indifferent stance towards the agreement's potential collapse seem more understandable from their viewpoint.
It definitely shows a shift in dynamics. France pushed for it. Now Algeria perceives France as backing away improperly.
It really goes to show how these, seemingly small technical details, visa rules, can expose much deeper issues.
Trust, respect, adherence to rules.
Exactly. When those things seem to break down, even over something like passports, it ripples outwards. It makes you think about how fragile these international agreements can be if the basic understanding of how to communicate and respect the terms erodes.
And the potential consequences of that breakdown, especially when reciprocity kicks in, where does it lead?
It leaves you wondering, what does this specific spat say about the overall health of the Algeria-France relationship right now? Definitely something to watch.